Hey guys, how are you doing? I wanted to come to you and make this video because I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with the recent new moon and solar eclipse. I feel like this solar eclipse new moon combination has been interesting because I feel like for the most part, solar eclipses tend to be very overwhelming for me. And they do tend to bring a lot to the surface, but it's almost like agitating, typically. Pretty overbearing and overwhelming. But I feel like for this solar eclipse, it's been a little bit different. Like, I feel like for the first portion of the solar eclipse, it was kind of similar to what I was experiencing during the solstice. So that sense of numbness. But then also what I noticed a little bit further down the line is that the numbness subsided and then I started to feel sad. So I actually started to have some feelings of sadness come up. But it wasn't overwhelming or overbearing or anything like that. It was just not pleasant, you know. So I was feeling sad and then I was feeling down, and this was the morning of. So it was the morning of the eclipse. I was just feeling down and not really in the mood for anything. But then I noticed that towards the end of the day, I had tons of energy. I had a burst of energy come through. And that's odd for me. And especially after a day of work. Typically after a day of work, I'm tired, I just want to relax and go to bed. But the day of the solar eclipse, it was not like that. I came home and I got this burst of energy out of nowhere at like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, where did that come from? So the solar eclipse definitely seemed to trigger some kind of energy amplification for me. And then what I noticed after that, after the energy burst, that lasted for a little bit. And as a matter of fact, it's still kind of going on. I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. But I noticed the energy burst, and then after that, I was feeling some stuff resurfacing for me. But in the past, I've noticed that when stuff has resurfaced for me, it's like, oh my god, I don't want to have to look at that or deal with that. But I feel like whatever was resurfacing for me, it wasn't something, I don't know how to describe this. It was more like, okay, it was a gentle resurfacing. I actually felt a little bit more flexible when it came to dealing with what was resurfacing, instead of having that hesitation, because that's kind of the point of stuff that resurfaces. A lot of the stuff is in the shadow aspect, and typically the shadow aspect is the stuff that we have difficulty looking at on a regular basis, so it tends to sit in the subconscious. But during this eclipse season, the stuff that's been resurfacing, it's almost like I feel a little bit more flexible when it comes to looking at these things. Another thing that seems to be happening is the stuff that would typically get on my nerves are things that would get to me. Because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I like to see things happen a certain way or to be done a certain way or whatever. But I noticed that during this eclipse season, things would come up for me that typically would make me annoyed. But then something happens where I'm like, wait, why are you letting that upset you? Is it really that important? Is it worth the energy? Is it worth the upset? Is it worth the aggravation? So basically, something would come up that would typically annoy me or upset me. It would come up for a second, but then that insight would come, why are you letting this upset you? And then it would go away. So for me, that is amazing. For me, that gives me a whole new perspective on how to deal with things that typically would get on my nerves. Which is good because none of us need the stress, right? Okay, so that burst of energy lasted for a bit, like I said before, but then I noticed this morning, I woke up, and oh my god, I was so tired. I was like, oh my god, I'm so tired. But then it only lasted for the time that I was waking up. And then after I actually got up out of the bed, I felt normal again. So, for me personally, this eclipse season, so far anyway, has been going pretty well. I haven't really been having like any overwhelming issues happen for me. But what I feel has been happening, why it's not as overwhelming, is because I feel like things are progressing in terms of the way I'm seeing things, the way I'm dealing with things, and the way that I navigate through my experiences is starting to shift. Well, as you know, these past few months have been full of shifts for me, and for a lot of you, I'm sure. So, I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. That maybe because I'm learning more about how to navigate through life a little bit better, and I'm getting used to the energies that are emerging and what's coming up for me, seems to be getting a little bit easier to tackle whatever does come up. So there's less resistance to it, which is a good thing. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Well, the last thing is just very strange dreams. Very strange dreams. All very pertinent to what's been going on, but very strange in terms of the way that the messages are delivered, the symbolism that's being used. Very odd dreams. So, well, whatever you guys are going through, please let me know. Either comment or whatever. Send me a message. But let me know what you're experiencing during this eclipse season, okay? So far. Maybe I'll do another video where I give you an update if anything changes. That's what I'm trying to do anyway. Give you guys updates on when things shift or when things change for me, so you have an idea, or maybe some confirmation as to what's going on with you, or maybe not, whatever. But let me know what's happening with you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.